And then we got them. Do we have any stats? Anybody? It's kind of the story of the night. Clock was wrong the whole game. We're trying to kick an onside kick to start the second half, and we got to wait on the chain crew because they're eating a hot dog. That's the only disappointing thing about tonight. So
this is going to be a little tough for me here for a couple of different reasons. Some of y'all that have been around for a while might know that I have this kind of weird infatuation with like silly post-game press conferences or silly remarks that are made in post-game press conferences, or just like coaches in general who are kind of clownish. You know, like Butch Jones comes to mind with some of his press conferences. Derek Dooley, honestly, going back a decade now, but Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach, different things like that. So like my sort of infatuation with this has nothing to do really with how good or bad the coach is, how good or bad that coach's team or program is. It's kind of just, I don't know. It's just always been interesting to me. And I made a video last year about Shane Beamer and kind of his quirkiness and his goofiness and how, well, I don't know if you can hear that thunder, but the damn bottom's about to fall out here. And I questioned if that sort of demeanor and attitude would work in the long run. The video came across a little more harsh towards Shane Beamer than I intended it to. And I didn't even really realize it came across that way till I read some of the comments. Now, what made it, I guess, dumb on my part is, like, I made that video like a week before South Carolina then went out and beat Tennessee and Clemson, you know. And so I didn't mean that video to say, well, let me just say that I think Shane Beamer is a perfect fit for South Carolina. I don't think South Carolina should fire Shane Beamer. I don't care if they go 4-8 this year. I think he fits in good there. Whether you want to call it culture, whether you want to call it just a personality, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not anti-Shane Beamer, but with that being said, this post-game press conference after the North Carolina game is just absolutely humiliating for Shane Beamer. And I know that some of what he said and some of the way that what he said came across is not what he actually meant or intended. And I think anybody that knows Shane Beamer or has ever watched a Shane Beamer press conference or even has watched this one press conference probably understands that. But in sort of a social media environment where the press conference is 12 or 13 minutes long, if you want to watch it, you can search up Shane Beamer post-game press conference. It'll come up. I'm going to play a brief clip from it here in a second. But in this kind of social media, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, 30-second soundbite type Twitter video world that we live in, when you say something that's just as patently dumb as what Shane Beamer said in that post-game press conference, it doesn't really matter what the context around it was or whether he was serious or not serious, because that's just what gets spread. And it's it's the whole art imitating life, imitating art kind of debate, right? Anyway, so basically, he comes out in the post-game press conference, and like all coaches, he gives like a 1 or 2 minute talk about the game, and then he opens it up for questions. And one of the first questions is about the offense and some injuries, and then I think they asked him about time of possession, or he brought up time of possession, that North Carolina ran 40 plays in the first half. They ran 20. Anyway, he's talking about that. And then stats come up, and he's got no idea what any of the stats are for the game. Now, I don't expect a head coach to, as the game is going along, be memorizing stats. But I've watched hundreds, maybe even thousands of post-game press conferences. Coaches come in with a stat sheet. There's literally someone on the roster, whether it's the sports information director himself or someone up underneath the sports information director or a staffer or some sort of assistant in a secretary type of somebody, that as soon as the game is over, before the head coach walks into the post-game press conference room, hands him a sheet with stats on it. Total yards, passing yards, rushing yards, time of possession, turnovers, how many first downs did you get? We were 5 of 16 on third down, whatever it is. It's usually a piece of paper because no coach has that memorized the second the game ends, but you're obviously going to be asked about that. And as a coach, you just want to know, so you have to see. Shane Beamer's asked about some stats or something, and he has no clue. He asked the reporters, do y'all know the stats? Does any of y'all have the stats or know the stats? Maybe you're thinking that's a minor thing, but it comes across really bad in the press conference to me. He then immediately proceeds to rant about the chain crew being late to come back out onto the field following halftime. Now, if you watch the game, you'll know that South Carolina attempted an onside kick at the start of the third quarter. So I don't know if this is a thing where he was mad because they were trying to surprise North Carolina with this onside kick, but then they had to just stand there and wait, and so much time went by that maybe North Carolina figured out they were doing an onside kick. But South Carolina got the fucking onside kick. Like, it worked. But just the fact that he would blame the chain crew, and then he makes reference, or he makes a comment about how they must have been in the back eating a hot dog. And again, it's kind of funny on the surface, but then you got to realize he's the head coach of a team that just got embarrassed in the first game of the season against North Carolina, while not a traditional rival, a geographic rival, a recruiting rival, in a terrible performance where you gave up 9 sacks offensively and rushed for -2 yards, and you're asking the reporters for if they have the stats. And then when he's talking about the chain crew and the hot dogs, he literally says, other than that, everything went fine. What? No, nothing went fine. North Carolina went up and down the field on you. You couldn't get off the field on third down. You couldn't sustain drives and stay on the field on third downs offensively. Just talked about how many sacks you gave up, -2 yards rushing. You had 8 or 9 players get injured in this game, leave, and unable to return. Like literally nothing went right in this game except the fact that Spencer Rattler actually looked like he knew what he was doing. Which, if you know Spencer Rattler's an up and down thing. I'm just curious, and again, this is not necessarily a bash Beamer video because I think Beamer is a great fit at South Carolina. And hell, the recruiting is trending in the right direction. If you look at Beamer's recruiting classes since he's got there, every one has been higher than the last. I'm not suggesting for a minute that South Carolina should fire Beamer or that the fans should want to go a different direction other than Beamer. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just curious if as a fan base, you watch this game on national television after preparing for 8 months, and this is what you see: 9 sacks, -2 yards rushing, and your coach comes out with the goofy routine again. Just he's a goofball. And look, the goofball sort of stick that he has going can be very endearing when things are going well, but when things are going bad, it's like I play blackjack a lot, okay? And at the casino, the dealers at the blackjack table, they work on tips, okay? So they like to conversate with the players, and they'll crack jokes. And some dealers are more talkative than others. Some are more goofy than others, or whatever. But you get a blackjack dealer who's and he wants to tell jokes, and he thinks he's a stand-up comedian. If I'm winning, it's fucking hilarious. You know, I'm laughing. Oh my God, that was great. Tell me another one. Blah, blah, blah. If I lose 4 or 5 hands in a row, the last thing I want is some dumbass blackjack dealer thinking he's fucking Siegfried and Roy or some fucking, Bill Burr. You're a fucking blackjack dealer, man. Act like it. I'm losing here. Don't the South Carolina fans have to feel the same way when you get absolutely humiliated on national television by North Carolina, and then your coach comes out with the fucking variety act, blaming hot dogs and chain crews and saying that's the only thing that went wrong, doesn't know a single stat? I'm just curious. Again, I think Beamer and South Carolina fit like a hand in a glove, but that can't make you happy when you see your coach out there with that song and dance routine. Anyway, here's the clip. Have a great day.
And defensively in the first half, we were out there way too many plays. I mean, third down, we couldn't get ourselves off the field defensively. So therefore, I think they played 40 plays in the first half, and we were out there for 20 because we couldn't stay on the field. The start of the game was like the perfect storm of everything that couldn't go wrong went wrong. We knew we were thin in the secondary. We lose Nicky Memori on the first series. We were young and thin at offensive tackle. We lose Casey Henry, I think, on the first series. We battled back, gave ourselves chances, but just not good enough. I mean, we got to. Do we have any stats? Anybody? It's kind of the story of the night. Clock was wrong the whole game. We're trying to kick an onside kick to start the second half, and we got to wait on the chain crew because they're eating a hot dog. That's the only disappointing thing about tonight. So I don't know what things came out to be statistically, but Not good enough. Colin had our chances.
What were the issues up front on offense?
I don't know. Not